Welcome back to Relax Radio. This is me, Nick, keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We're talking about all these things that is happening right now in the UK and a lot of topics actually going on. And one of them is, the 8 areas where, in the Indian variant should avoid indoor gatherings. Yeah, that's one of those areas right now. And we're going to be talking about all these things, as we go along in the show. We're going to be talking about the UK businesses and how they can unlock growth with green exports. And finally, we're going to be touching on the UK tourism spending worth just half of the pre-pandemic levels. Yeah, that is of concern right now. What is going on. And if you're wondering who this is, my name is Nick, and I'm keeping you guys company all the way until 6, only on Real Talk right here. And hey, in case you guys want to get in touch with us, all you got to do is simple. Hit us up on those numbers, 07852-473-473. Those are the magical numbers. And also don't forget to check us out on the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day. And, you can download our app. You can listen to us 24 hours, 365, 24/7. And hey, also don't forget, we're on social media, pretty big on social media. We're going on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, you name it. We are definitely on it. And hey, getting back to the topic at hand, actually is the Indian variant. Yeah, that is right now plaguing all of the UK. And yeah, the Indian variant. And the government right now has issued places where people can gather and where they shouldn't gather. So yeah, the government has advised that they've advised, has emerged, urging people not to travel into and out of areas hit by the coronavirus variant first found in India unless you are absolutely required to, unless it's absolutely necessary. Don't do it. And the guidance for Kirklees, Bedford, Burnley, Leicester, Houseland, and North Tyneside says people in these areas should try to avoid meeting indoors. And the advice was published online on Friday without an announcement and urges an extra cautious approach. Yeah, that's right. The government is saying they are trying to encourage people to discourage people and asking them to refrain from meeting indoors at this particular places in this particular period of time. And a Downing Street source denied it was a local lockdown by stealth. And the Prime Minister's official spokesperson said the government wanted to encourage the public to exercise their good judgment rather than issuing top-down edicts and advice against traveling to Bolton in Greater Manchester and nearby Blackburn with Darwin, other than for essential reasons and for people there to meet outside and where possible, had been issued on the 14th of May and was updated to include 6 other areas on Friday. So Greater Manchester's Labour Mayor Andy Burnham said issuing the advice without warning was a major communications error and which had a major effect on people's lives. And a government's minister should issue a clarification. And that what he's trying to say is essentially, the government, we should have a spokesperson to talk about this and address this issue and bring it forth towards the public, because the public now have questions and they're asking, is it a lockdown? Are we supposed to not avoid this? Are we supposed to avoid this whole area completely? And will our economy get affected? Is one of the things the people are wondering about. So David Greenhalgh, the Conservative leader of Bolton Council, said he had been assured there was no added restrictions coming to Bolton and no local lockdown. So Bolton recorded 451 overall cases per 100,000 people in the week to the 20th of May. And while you look at it, the highest in England, as the Royal Bolton Hospital said, it would take urgent action to manage an increase in the COVID patients. So meanwhile, the UK also reported 15 new deaths within 28 days of a positive test and 2,493 new confirmed cases. That's right, all of these things. So Tuesday's figures for reported deaths are sometimes higher due to the weekend reporting delays. And they're saying, okay, although it looks like it is a very exponential amount, it is not really like that. It's because of the delays right now. When it comes to the weekend, the reports come by Tuesday. We'll get most of the reports now. So this is why it looks like it's a bigger result. So several of the local authorities affected by the new advice, which represents, more than 2 million residents combined, said they were not consulted about this. And they were not consulted about, how they should just stay indoors and how they should just stick to it and not go out. And Leicester's Director of Public Health, Professor Ivan Brown, said people in the area should continue to follow the national guidance, and there is no justification for Leicester to be treated differently to the rest of the country, as it has lower levels of the Indian variant than other parts of the country. So they're taking jabs essentially at places like in the Bolton area And North Tyneside Council said officials did not know about it until Monday, while leaders in Lancashire said they discussed the new guidance with the government later. And yeah, Blackburn with Darwin's Director of Public Health, Dominic Harrison. He went on to say, the affected areas were not consulted with, warned of, notified about, or alerted to this guidance. But the Downing Street also said, sources said that all the areas were informed about the latest advice. And yeah, the guidance published on page titled "What You Can and Cannot Do" advises people in the 8 areas of England to meet outside rather than inside where possible. One of the reasons is because of ventilation. They found out, researchers have discovered that if you do keep ventilated, well, you can reduce the risks of getting or of contracting rather the disease. And yeah, keep a 2 meter distance from people who do not live with you unless you have formed a support bubble with them. And this includes friends and families. Just don't live with. Okay, so you don't live with these families. Well, you make sure to keep that 2 meter distance and avoid traveling in and out of affected areas unless it is truly essential. And for example, if you're going for work, if you cannot work from home, or if you're going for educational reason, well, these are the valid reasons why you can go out. And there was a big exchange rather with the Commons. The Shadow Health Secretary Jonathan Ashworth urged Vaccines Minister Nadine Zahawi to withdraw this guidance now. And Mr. Ashworth, leader of the MP for Leicester South, asked what families with trips planned and couples with weddings arranged should do this coming bank holiday weekend. So Mr. Zahawi also urged all these leaders to work together and said the government was asking people in these 8 areas to be cautious and be careful. That's right. You don't want to be on the wrong side of this all. And, it just points out, the reason why you have to be there. And yeah, Mr. Zawi went on to say a lot of these things as well. And Health Secretary Matt Hancock used a Downing Street briefing last Wednesday to urge the vulnerable people to have their second doses of the vaccine to guard against the Indian virus variant. And Mr. Hancock announced an increase in the surges and testing in the 6 areas where the variant was circulated, but did not outline any specific, basically any specific rules or travel guidance. So Yasmin Qureshi, the Labour leader MP for Bolton South East and Shadow International Development Minister, said she had not been informed of any new advice and was gobsmacked by the updated guidance. And, she went on to say, they're making such an important announcement and they don't even have the decency to tell us or to tell our constituents. She said this is all that many people would have been plans to travel over the bank holidays during this weekend. So she said it was not clear whether this is advisory or legally obligatory. So, and she went on to describe, the move as incompetence on the part of the government. And yeah, she said that it was not clear, like I said, and the Downing Street sources, they went on to say it was advice, not law, and that all the areas had proceeded with stage 3 of England's roadmap and out of road. This was essentially they stepped down out of this roadmap. They're following through with the roadmap and getting along by and this happened by the 17th of May. So yeah, this is just another step. The third step's already down. We're waiting for the fourth step, which is hopefully by the 21st of June, all of us can go out of lockdown completely. So the Indian variant is on its way to becoming dominant in the UK, pushing out the Kent variant that caused the deadly winter surge. But implications of that are just uncertain and unclear at the moment. So in some areas, such as the northwest of England, it is pushing up infection rates as well as replacing the Kent variant. And elsewhere, it just seems to be replacing the Kent variant without having much of an impact. There's not such a big impact on the amount of virus circulating. So government scientists always warn the easing of restrictions would lead to an increase in cases, and that is more certain with what seems to be a more infectious variant circulating. And yeah, you know what no one knows at the moment is how large that increase will be and what impact it will have on hospital cases. And yeah, the UK is in a slightly different position than when the Kent variant started talking, when it started taking off. They were not really, this whole situation in comparison is it's very different from how when the Kent variant first came into the UK. And yeah, infection levels are low, and we have one of the lowest rates in Europe, and the vaccination program is also very well advanced. So, like I said, all of this is happening, but there's still a risk of a big wave of serious illness. So the difficulties all of these scientists face is essentially, quantifying that risk, which makes deciding the proportionate response very, very difficult and very hard, for them to follow through rather with a response that needs to be done. And Layla Morin, also, who chairs the all-party parliamentary group on coronavirus, said the advice risked confusing people, and people are confused. They are worried, and they don't really understand what is happening. And she went on to say this is a major change to policy that will have a huge impact on people's lives. Simply updating the government website without an official announcement is a recipe for confusion and uncertainty. And she, went on to say all these things, and people are not really quite happy about it when you think about all the situation and how they're getting their advice to go and to avoid certain places like this when a national lockdown. A lockdown has not been announced formally by the government, but when you see the government websites talking about advising people not to go to these specific areas, it does raise the question, though, are they in some kind of a local lockdown? That is, what is going on through people's head at the moment. We don't really know exactly what the government is saying, but it's best to refrain from these areas for the meantime, until this whole situation completely eases out. And hey, with that being said, we're going to be taking a real quick break, and we will be right back after this. Welcome back to Relax Radio. This is me, Nick, keeping you guys company on Real Talk right here all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We're talking about all the things that is going on across the UK. And yeah, we're talking about a lot of topics, that is happening right now. And yeah, with that one of the instances that, what we're talking about, all these things that is happening right now. And one of this is how the UK businesses can unlock growth with green exports. This is what the CBI is saying. Yeah, so lobby groups have published visions for decarbonizing economy and creating 240,000 jobs. That is right. So British businesses have the opportunity to create 240,000 low carbon jobs and boost the green export by billions of pounds to essentially, radically change from all of this and transform the UK economy over the next decade. This is what the CIB has said. And UK's foremost business lobby group said businesses across this country stood to gain from an early mover advantage by leading a campaign to decarbonize the global economy to avoid a climate meltdown. And yeah, calling on companies to seize the moment and demands for radical economic reforms after the COVID-19 pandemic. It said decarbonization and innovation it is said, that decarbonization, innovation, growing trade, and leveling up Britain's lopsided regional economy could unlock commercial growth opportunities worth £700 billion by 2030. And that is, just something that's just a simple figure that they are guessing on. So publishing a report into how these businesses could transform the economy over the next decade, it said the UK was at a turning point. And, the failure to adapt would lead to exacerbating the pre-pandemic trends of low productivity and heightened social division. And that is what's right now all across the UK. This is what is plaguing the country overall. And after the 2008 financial crisis, this is what exactly is happening in the country. There's been trends of low productivity, heightened social division. And yeah, this just goes to show, according to the study, UK firms could boost the carbon export to the EU, including opportunities to grow electric vehicles and battery sales by £18 billion over the next decade. And it said a net 240,000 jobs could be created, including in cities and towns outside London and the southeast, to help level up regional economies across the country. So Tony Danker, the Director General of the CBI, said businesses needed to work with trade unions, civil society, and the government to cut carbon emissions to unlock the UK's growth potential. And he went on to say that we may disagree on detail, but not on the need to align around this vision and these principles. And he went on to also say, decarbonizing our economy is a planetary imperative. This is very important, and we can use our transition to net zero to create green jobs, to find sustainable solutions, and sell them to the rest of the world. Not only are we protecting our country, but at the same time, we are helping it grow and making sure that the economy, there's some economical growth as well. And yeah, the intervention from the CBI comes as a report by academics from the Imperial College of London, where the energy firm Relaks issued a weather warning for Britain's electricity grid, saying further investment was required to improve the mix of renewable energy production in case of periods of a little wind. So the report said the UK experienced its longest spell of low wind output in more than a decade during the first 3 months of this year. And the author said output from the country's 24.4 gigawatt fleet of wind turbines fell to as low as 0.6 gigawatts on the 3rd of March. And in contrast with the 18.1 GW delivered later that month. So between 26th of February and the 8th of March, a total of 11 days. So the capacity of the national wind turbine fleet did not go above 20%. So the grid operators had to, call on these gas-fired units to generate power to plug the gap with every gigawatt of failing, all of this failing wind output being replaced by 0.84 gigawatts of gas, thereby harming Britain's carbon cutting ambitions, said the report. I mean, it's ironic, when there is not enough wind, what we do is we resort to these gas
inevitably causes even more increase of this natural carbon, carbonization of the country, and it just contributes to global warming as well. So Britain's ever-changing weather could put its landmark net zero climate target at risk and become a threat to the world's grid security unless policymakers take action. However, though, illustrating the author's point about the UK's fast-changing weather, the powerful gusts that have been buffeting Britain in recent days may lead many people to conclude that low wind input is certainly not a problem right now. And the blustery weather has helped the country reach a new all-time high for electricity generated from wind turbines. So, yeah, a record was set in the early hours of Friday, the 21st of May, for the share of wind power in the generation mix, with wind providing nearly two-thirds of Britain's electricity, according to provincial data from the national grid. So that's right. This is just some of the things that the grid also went on to describe. And yeah, it's crazy, with what is happening, and the wind powered right now is not. We have to focus more on the green, but to do that, the transition is gonna be taking a real long time, and it's not as easy as it sounds. The UK is facing these problems. What with the low winds and all of that, plaguing the country right now. We are at a stalemate, and right now we have to seize the moment, and we have to make sure that we do a lot of these reforms so that we can transition into a more greener UK. That is what is important right now with what is going on, with what is happening all across us and the UK and the world. It's just fitting to be doing something like this right now. This is the best time to do it. If we don't transition now, we can never transition. And yeah, this is just another thing that we have to consider moving towards. Although it will take a lot of time, it will definitely take a lot of effort as well, in part of all of this. And yeah, talking about things in the country right now and talking about the holidays, well, Holiday Islands is considered for the green list. Yeah, that is correct. You heard me right. And yeah, the islands such as the Canary Islands and Majorca could be placed on the UK's green list of destinations for holidaymakers. And this is all said by a government minister. And yeah, the move may happen from the 7th of June. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps has said this. And currently, though, people from England can holiday in green list countries without having to quarantine on their return. But travel operators and airlines have been pushing to be allowed to fly to these holiday islands when the rest of the country is on the amber list. So right now, what that could mean is for people, they could holiday in popular destinations, such as the Canary Islands, Majorca. Even if mainland Spain stays on the amber list, they can travel to these other tourist destination facts right there. And these are the hotspots where they can travel to. And yeah, this is something that people can actually be happy about, and people can look forward to. I mean, it just shows, right now, a lot of people would be glad to be doing something like this. Let's see, how it goes. Hopefully, this is something, that they can implement as they go on. And what are the rules for UK's foreign travel? Well, people across the UK can legally take foreign travels, although Welsh residents have been asked not to travel abroad. And more likely, they've been asked, rather more fittingly, they've been asked to stay at home and stay closer to home and avoid travel because of the probable risk of, the very likelihood of getting a disease is not, it's not something that they can rule out at this moment. So on England's traffic light list for foreign countries are classed as green, amber, or red, with different rules for quarantine and COVID tests in places for each. So yeah, the government guidance is that you should not holiday in these red or amber countries, which include Spain and many other countries as well. So holiday to these countries on the green list, including Portugal, can lead ahead without a need to quarantine when you return. So you can travel to these countries, like if you want to go to Portugal, well, if you want to go now, hopefully to the Canary Islands, it's not yet confirmed, but they are planning to put them on the list. Majorca, I mean, this is something, that you can definitely do. So you don't have to, worry about being quarantined at home. You can get out of the house and you can go, but you will have to still undergo a lot of these lateral flow tests. So yeah, the list is also, the list is also reviewed every 3 weeks, and countries can change status at short notice. So there are similar rules for Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And earlier on Wednesday, the boss of two jets, Easy Jets and Manchester Airport, called on the government to expand the green list of destinations. So a bunch of these airports and airlines went on to the government and spoke to them and said, okay, listen, we need to increase the lists of these green list destinations. Otherwise, tourism is not going to boom. We are not going to benefit from all of this. Our economy will definitely suffer. And yeah, the holiday bosses didn't feel that Portugal, the only mass market tourist destination on this green list, is enough of an offering, for the summer. So tour operators want the British holidaymakers' favorites of Mallorca, Tenerife, and the Canaria opened up. And yeah, these destinations are believed to have been, of good health, and hopefully, this is, they can move forward with this, and they can, get a hopefully they can push this through. So a lot of them, they want to get back to these places like the Canary Islands, and they believe that this will this will be in good health protocols in place. So they want the UK holiday makers back on some of their favorite beaches. So this is just, one of those things. So Steve Heapy, the chief executive of Jet2, said, we feel the government is overly cautious and that the list of green countries could be expanded with little increase in risk. And he said that there was currently no benefit of the vaccination program when traveling, adding people need a break. People want to get back to normal. I mean, does he have an agenda? It does sound like he does. I mean, yes, this, if you consider it, they are talking about, getting the country back, and they're saying the risk of, getting the COVID-19 virus is pretty low. I mean, are they scientists to be even declaring something like that? They're not. They just want to make money. It's understandable, though, that right now it's not at the greatest interest. I personally prefer at the moment, the best thing to do is to stay at home, stay local as much as you can, support the businesses that need supporting, especially here in the UK. There's a lot of local businesses as well, small time shop owners, businesses, pubs. It can be any of these places. I'd rather we support the income right now in the country before we start traveling abroad and, supporting other people's economies. Right now, we have to make sure that we push forward in our country. And he also went on to say, all of these things. And Mr. Shaps also said, that MPs on the Transport Select Committee on Wednesday, that he had asked the Joint Bureau Biosecurity Center to consider islands within their criteria, and where possible, they would look to include if the facts stacked up. So when pushed on whether this was possible by the 7th of June, Mr. Shaps said, technically that is possible, but I actually don't know because I don't have the data yet as to whether islands make the grade. So Mr. Shaps was pushed to explain why so few countries were on the green list when the UK vaccination levels were high. And he went on to say, if you send people, even vaccinated people, to other countries, given vaccinations are not 100% reliable, then you are exposing them to the risk that they don't have if they are stuck in the UK. And that's fine, you might say. Well, that's their risk, but not if they bring them back. And then it's all of our risk. So we don't have to move with the science, is what they're saying. So Mr. Shapp said there is scientific analysis of each destination when decisions are made to conclude and include all these countries on the list, including vaccination levels, virus levels, and ability to track how the virus is evolving. So at the moment, this is a waiting game. It's said that the travel would change when other countries catch up with UK's level of vaccinations. So right now, if you check, our counterparts, a lot of our counterparts across the world, across the EU especially, they are currently not up to par with our vaccination levels. In comparison, we are better off. We are way better off than those other countries. And until that changes, until we can make sure that changes and they can keep up to up to our level, the green list will not change anytime soon. So this is just part of this is the patience to have to let this come through the system. And they also went on to say, Mr. Shapp said, deaths in Germany and France are now higher per day than in the UK, and allowing UK citizens to travel there exposes them to the probable risks. So, make sure, in case you guys are wondering, you want to go for that holiday or whatever, well, make sure you stay indoors for now, at least for the meantime, while this is going on. And hopefully, once this whole situation dies out, we can do something about this, and we can, we'll be able to travel to these green list countries. And with that, we're going to be taking a real quick break, and we'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the show. This is Relax Radio with me, Nick, keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We're talking about all these things that is happening right now in the UK. And yeah, that's right. We were talking about, where you can travel to, what you can do, and, where to the places you should avoid right now with the government saying all of this. And yeah, one of this is right now, the situation, like I said, isn't at its greatest. And if you can, try your best to stay indoors. And if you're wondering who this is, my name is Nick. And yeah, this is Relax Radio. So if you have anything you want to say or you have any comments or thoughts on the matter, hit us up on those numbers 078 52473 473. Those are the magic numbers. And also don't forget to check us out on our webpage. We are on Twitter, we're on social media. You're going to be pretty big on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook as well. So check us out on our platforms. And yeah, with that being said, getting back to it and diving back rather to the topics at hand, we're going to be talking about the government, and they're announcing a 401 million pound boost for rail services. That's right. So new stations, faster journeys, and more reliable services have been promised as part of a 401 million pound government investment in rail travel. So most of the money will be used to upgrade the Trans-Pennine route between York, Leeds, and Manchester. And the plan will see the new stations in Leeds and Exeter and increased freight capacity at the port of Southampton. So Transport Secretary Grant Shapps said the money would help deliver services passengers can actually count on for once. And yeah, that's something, the Department of Transport, DFT, said a 301 million boost would see the Trans-Pennine line electrified between York and Church Fenton, and it tracks doubled around Leeds and Huddersfield to improve connectivity. So about 69 million pounds will pay for the first stage of the Oxford Phase 2 project to improve freight capacity from Southampton into the Midlands and the North, and the final 15 million pounds will improve new stations at March Barton in Zetter and White Rose and the Thorpe Park in Leeds. So yeah, Mr. Shapps said the aim was to create a modern, green, and innovative railway. So yeah, the funding announcements coincided rather with the completion of the first phase of the 1.5 billion pound Midland Main Line upgrade, which has supported the launch of the East Midlands Rails, the EMR. That is the first electric services on the route between Corby in Northamptonshire and London St Pancras. So yeah, the project will see journeys times between Sheffield and London cut up to 30 minutes, and that is something that people can be looking forward to. If this is going through, this is what's going to happen. We're going to save up a lot of time, and there will be a little bit of expenditure, but at the same time we get to see a massive saving of time and connectivity. There's more connectivity. You get to meet up with more places more easily. There'll be more easier access to certain places as well. So this is just something that is going on. And looking at the news also, there's been cocaine found off Hastings and New Haven worth 80 million pounds. I mean, they found that off in the coast. So kind of fishy, if you know what I'm talking about, pun intended. But hey, drugs found in packages that washed up on the south coast, are thought to be South American cocaine with a value of up to 80 million pounds. So yeah, 2 consignments of nearly a ton of suspected cocaine were discovered on beaches in Sussex back in Monday, and the National Crime Agency, the NCA, has discovered all of this, and they say sample tested positives for the Class A drug, but a full forensic examination will be carried out, said the NCA. So the police also said, the haul weighed 960 kilograms. So yeah, that's a significant loss to their involvement. And to those involved, that is a huge and major loss, is what they're saying. So the packages were all wrapped in waterproof bags and attached to life jackets to make them float. So it's kind of creative when you think about the ways people work to get drugs into the country or across the country. When if you can actually put this much creativity in that, smuggling drugs into the country, why can't you do that with an honest life, is what I'm trying to say. And yeah, all of this is, the Sussex police also removed bundles from the beach and took them to a secure location after passerbys spotted packages on the shoreline near Hastings and New Haven and alerted the force. So Martin Grace, the NCA branch commander, said this is a significant amount of Class A drugs, which we think originated in South America, but we are keeping an open mind about how the drugs washed up here and where the end destination might have been. So clearly, though, losing a consignment of this size will represent a significant hit to the criminal networks involved. And yeah, he also went on to say, they went on to say that the two seizures were now being linked, and a Sussex police and border force investigation was now underway. And the packages were first reported to be floating in the water off Hastings shortly before 6 p.m. BST on Monday. So yeah, further packages were then found later in the day along the coast at New Haven. So this is, a considerable amount of loss. So there's a lot of this, people are saying that these cases, these packages rather, were holding in these drugs. So, this is just another step, another win, and a big loss rather, for the parties involved, the criminal parties involved as well. Let's see, what happens for someone out there, involved in this right now. He must be scratching his head or his pocket and wondering, where the money has what happened to all their consignments. Well, that's just something, for them. That's their loss. In my opinion, that is, anyway, something that you should. Also, their Netherlands court orders giant to cut emissions. So yeah, they are finally, stepping it up when it comes to global warming. So the Netherlands right now, they are a court in the Netherlands rather has ruled in a landmark case that the oil giant Shell must reduce its emissions. So by 2030, Shell must cut its emissions of CO2 by 45% compared to the 2019 levels. And this is what the civil court ruled. So the Shell group is responsible for its own CO2 emissions and those of its suppliers, the verdict said. And it is the first time a company has been legally obliged to align its policies with the Paris Climate Accords, says Friends of the Earth, or the FOE activist group. So yeah, the environmental group brought the case to court in 2019 alongside 6 other bodies and more than 17,000 Dutch citizens. So though the decision only applies in the Netherlands, it could have a wider effects elsewhere. Could that affect us as well and our finance sectors as well, in parties involved in this finance and bank sectors? Well, we'll have to see about that. And yeah, all of this, they were saying that this is just a very unprecedented scale and judgment to be something like this to happen all of a sudden. And it's a huge turning point, actually, for a lot of people, for the country, for the world right now. If we can get if you can get a giant like Shell to do this, why can't we get the other companies to do it as well? And Shell spokesperson said they fully expect to appeal today's disappointing court decision, and added they were stepping up further efforts to cut emissions. And urgent action is needed on climate change, which is why we accelerated our efforts to become a net zero emission energy company by 2050. The spokesperson said all of this, and adding that Shell was investing billions of dollars in low carbon energy, including electric vehicle charging, hydrogen, renewables, and biofuel. So they say, this is just some of the things right now that Shell is actually doing for the environment. But it's still not going to be enough. If you think about it, it's still going to take time. How long are they going to take? We don't even know, because look, 2050, this is the year. These decades will mark whether we're going to be affected by this permanently or not, whether the environment is going to give its adverse effects right now or in the next couple of years. So we need to take a serious action right now. And hats off to the people of Netherlands for doing something like this, and for an initiative like this, for them to step up and speak their voices. And they all say all of these things. And this is just great news, for people. And the activists are also really happy about it. And there's also pictures about it on, Twitter, on Instagram as well, where they're showing how happy they are and celebrating about this. And under the terms of the Paris Agreement on climate change, though, nearly 200 nations agreed to keep global temperatures well below 2 degrees above the pre-industrial levels. So the legally binding treaty came into force on the 4th of November, 2016. The U.S. withdrew under former President Donald Trump, but has since rejoiced under President Joe Biden. And a number of groups around the world are now trying to force companies and governments to comply with the accords through the courts. And Shell has previously said it wants net zero emission or for itself and from products used by its customers by 2050. So in December, its defense lawyers told the Dutch court the company was already taking serious steps to move away from fossil fuels and said there was no legal basis for the case. And the Shell verdict is a massive win for environmental campaigners, and other industrial giants will be scrambling to figure out if it could affect them. Because suddenly it's not good for firms to comply with the law on their emission. In an extraordinary case like this, they have to comply with global climate policy too. So the company's defense is that if people feel progress towards cutting emissions is too slow, they should lobby governments, not Shell, to change policies and introduce financial incentives. And the judge has already clearly decided that Shell should be taking responsibility itself for cutting emissions much faster, but the firm will surely appeal and it will well win the case in a higher court. But this verdict alone will be a warning to a lot of companies actually around the world that the battle against climate change may be spelling the end of anything resembling business as usual. So we have to expect more about this, as they go around. And however, there's going to be more about, these companies crawling right in and looking at all this situation right now. Like I said, companies like Shell losing in a grand scale like this when it comes down to global warming and climate change activists. Well, this could spell the end for a lot of big firms, and they could be scratching their head and wondering what they should do next about this. I mean, we never really know what they can do until that situation is struck. And now the time has come where people are going to rise about this. There's going to be a lot of voices talking about this, and a lot of people are already against this whole global warming and fossil fuel usage. So let's see how it goes. Hopefully we can make even more of a bigger change, and hats off to the people at Netherlands. And with that, we're going to be taking a real quick break, and we'll be right back after this. And welcome back to the show. This is Relax Radio with me, Nick, talking about all the things that is happening right now in the UK. And that's right. In case you guys want to get in touch, you know the numbers. You can always feel free to hit me up. It is 07852 473 473. That's right. You can always feel free to call me up on those numbers, or also you can check us out on our social media pages. We're pretty big on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram as well. So make sure to check us out on those platforms. And yeah, I'll be keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. right here at Relax Radio. And yeah, we're talking about all the things that is happening right now. And I don't know if you guys were paying attention yesterday, but there was a big issue, regarding Sasha Johnson and how, she was shot. This activist was shot for the Black Lives Matter. Well, they finally found 5 people who were held on suspicion of this attempted murder. So yeah, 5 people have been arrested after a prominent Black Lives Matter activist was shot in the head at a party in South London. So Sasha Johnson, 27, is critically ill in the hospital after being shot at a house party in Peckham on Sunday. So yeah, the Met said 5 males aged between 17 and 28 have been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder as well as other offenses. And searches are also being carried out at 2 addresses in Peckham. And yeah, Miss Johnson rather was left in a life-threatening condition following the shooting at the property in Consort at about 3 o'clock BST. Weapon and possession with intent to supply Class A drugs, and further investigations led to police to address in Speckham where 3 people, men rather, were aged between 19, 18, and 28 were all arrested on suspicion of affray and possessions with intent to supply Class B drugs. And a 25-year-old man was held later in the evening following a police chase as well. So, it is getting wild out there. So make sure you guys, be safe as much as possible. And yeah, it is not the greatest of times, especially with what is going on, the pandemic. And there's also people going crazy right now. And yeah, this 25-year-old man was also held later in the evening following a police chase. And yeah, all 5 of these were also later arrested on suspicion of attempted murder and remain in custody. This is the force added this. So right now they're saying Chris Wright said the arrests had been, Superintendent Chris Rust had said that their arrests had been the result of instinctive local police work combined with fast time intelligence gathering. So local officers supported by specialist teams will continue to be in and around the Peckham area in the coming days, and they continue to urge anyone with concerns to engage with them. So if you know any kind of information about this, any with regards to the shooting and what happened, well, make sure you go to the police and inform them about this. Any information is good information, in my opinion. Any kind of information you can provide will help solve this situation even further. So yeah, this is just something that is happening, and hopefully she will be making a full and speedy recovery. God bless Sasha Johnson as well, and let's hope for a speedy recovery for her. And yeah, and things related across the UK right now, the COVID situation. Well, no detectable spread of the virus after Liverpool pilot events. So yeah, what is all of this? So trial events held in Liverpool to test COVID-19 transmission did not cause any detectable spread of the virus attempts. And this is what the city's chief health minister said, that this is what they are, they've been going through, and this is what they've observed. And they found out that this is something that is, right now they can manage. It's a very manageable situation. And yeah, it just goes to show, that more than 13,000 people attended 2 nightclub events, a music festival, and a business conference in April and May. And 11 people later tested positive for coronavirus, though less than half of all the attendees returned a PCR test. So Liverpool Public Health Director Matt Ashton said the trials were undoubtedly a success, and the latest government figures show the city to have an infection rate of 7.4 cases per 100,000 100,000 people. So yeah, in that week leading up to 21st of May, down from 9.8 per 100,000 7 days before. So people who went to the 3 days business festival, which began on the 28th of April, the two nightclubs on the 30th of April and the 1st of May, or the Sefton Park gig on the 2nd of May, did not need to socially distance or wear face mask coverings, and were encouraged to take both a PCR and a lateral flow test on the day of the event and 5 days later. So the process saw 5 people unable to attend after testing positive, 4 being identified as possibly having the virus at an event, and 7 having the virus, and 4 to 7 days after they attended. So yeah, these is of those who tested positive afterwards. Only 2 people who had been able to the gig at Sefton Park, and 9 had attended the club event. So it just goes to show, the situation right now. And Mr. Ashton said it was definitely groups of people who were infected afterwards, but the people were known to each other. So it's also possible that those people got it after the events. But Professor Ian Buchan from the University of Liverpool, who assessed the pilot, said timely data and quick action to trace and test contacts of people testing both positive both before and after events was key to containing potential outbreaks. And he said the events had individually seen between 25% and 43% of attendees returning a PCR test afterwards. So he added that the scientists and Liverpool City Council had identified room for improvement. And this included, maximizing ventilations, even in these large indoor spaces, incentives to return PCR tests for research purposes, and issuing tickets only after an assured negative test in the day running up to an event. So Mr. Ashton said reopening the entertainment economy remained incredibly complex and difficult, but was also incredibly important. And he said the data showed lateral flow tests will be a key of this whole jigsaw puzzle, but really close working between our event promoters, local public health teams, and a range of partners will also be central to making sure events run safely. So yeah, that's just, topics about that with the whole COVID situation. They're trying these large events and they're seeing whether they can move from this, and whether we can actually throw bigger and safer events. Hopefully this is something shines in a positive light, and we can get to do something like this as we move along, with the lockdown coming up. And it's just, things that is going on, and hopefully that is something, that they can address as they go about it. So let's see, what happens as they go along, and as time comes, let's see whether we can run more bigger events, when it comes to this. Because like I said, most of the events promoters and a lot of this scientists as well, and health workers involved did confirm that ventilation is also very important for this to actually to reduce the possibility or the likelihood of getting the coronavirus. So yeah, let's see how it goes. And with that though, we are going to be taking a real quick break, and we will be right back after this. Welcome back to Relax Radio with me, Nick, giving you guys company only here on a Real Talk all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We're talking about all the important things that is happening across the UK. Whether what you are doing right now, you got to make sure you stay safe. And hey, if you guys have anything that you want to talk about or you want to voice your thoughts on, or just want to hit me up and let me know, how your day was going, well, call me up on those numbers. You know what it is. The magic numbers are 07852 473 473. You can always feel free to call us up and, let me know whatever is going on in your life. And also don't forget to check us out on the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day, 365, 24/7. That's right. We're going on with all of these things that is happening. And getting back to the topic at hand, though, London wants the whole concrete steps towards the new NI service by summer. So this is the abortion laws right now. So the Department of Health must take concrete steps towards commissioning full abortion services in Northern Ireland before the summer. This is what a government minister has said. And Robin Walker said the Secretary of State stands ready to act if significant progress is not made. And Robin Walker said he said all of these things, and abortion was decriminalized in 2019 in Northern Ireland, but full services had been stalled. And MPs on Westminster Committee backed regulations allowing Brandon Lewis to direct commissioning of all of these services. So right now, there is being talks and there has been concerns about this, because at the moment, when you look at it, all of this, especially when it comes down to abortion, it has been banned it has been decriminalized rather, because a lot of countries did make it a criminal act to have an abortion, and now they are moving steps forward. But with the situation right now, the MPs on Westminster's committee backed regulations allowing Brandon Lewis to direct commissioning of these services. So they voted in favor by 13-3. So we need to see movement coming forward. Mr. Walker, a Northern Ireland office minister, told the first delegated legislation committee, and he said, if we do not see significant progress before summer recess, the Secretary of State stands ready to issue the direction empowered by these regulations. So Mr. Walker said it is in a government's preference that the NI executive and assembly move forward with the issue. So the regulations published in March state that Mr. Lewis is acting as required to uphold legal and human rights duties on NI abortion services. So Northern Ireland's Department of Health has said the matter is controversial and any decision on abortion services must be made by the whole executive. So 88 MPs, including SDLP leader Colum Eastwood, the party's South Belfast MP Claire Hanna, and Alliance Stephen Ferry offered cross-party support for the NI secretary move in a letter to Stormont ministers. And these are just some of the things. However, the Democratic Unionist Party, the DUP, has criticized it and said it would have serious consequences for devolution at the first delegated legislation committee on Monday. So the DUP MP Carla Lockhart said Northern Ireland's place in the union has been undermined. And further on, Ms. Lockhart said, I do not question the fact that the Parliament is legally entitled to legislate for Northern Ireland's notwithstanding certain powers, but the powers are devolved to the Assembly. And I do question the wisdom of it and the enduring damage it will do to the devolved settlements. So changes to the Northern Ireland's abortion law came into force back in March 2020 after Westminster acted during a period when the power sharing institution at Stormont was suspended. However, the commissioning of the full service has currently been delayed. So Stormont and Westminster are facing legal action from the Human Rights Commission over this delay, and the cause is due to be heard by Belfast High Court at the end of May. And that's right. The latest figures from the Department of Health show that since abortion regulations came in force at the end of March last year, 1,345 terminations have taken place. So, yeah, the department added that full provisions of these services will require substantial additional investments from the government. And earlier in the Northern Ireland Assembly on Monday, Health Minister Robin Schwan said the Western Health and Social Trust, Care Trust rather, had temporarily suspended early abortion services. So Mr. Schwan said the trust had informed this department rather about the move last Friday. So yeah, they were having these discussions about these things. So it just shows, the that, like I said, right now abortion also is an issue where they have legalized it in these places in Northern Ireland. And when the ministers don't take action and don't do what they're required to do, I mean, it just goes to show there is a deep seated problem, regarding this. And this is something that they are supposed to be also, considering about. And Mr. Swan also said that his department will continue to monitor the ongoing efforts by the trust to restore delivery of those services with minimum disruptions. And at this stage, it's not known how long services will be paused in the Western Trust. And it's his understanding that efforts are going and are ongoing to put additional staff in place as soon as possible and to resume provision of the EMA service with a minimum of disruption. And he was responding to a question from the Green Party MLA Rachel Woods, who asked for clarity rather on who's the contentious objection provision in the regulations apply to. And these are just the things they've been trying to address. And taking a look at other things also, at situations in right now that is happening in Scotland. A quarter of libraries shut despite the lockdown easing. So more than a quarter of Scotland's libraries are still closed a month after they were allowed to reopen. And there is concern that some of the 123 public libraries across the country that remain clocked will not return. And some have not opened their doors in more than a year. And many areas are only offering reduced or remote services such as click and collect. So the Scottish Library Information Council, the SLIC, said there was concern about some services may never even reopen again. So that is something that is actually very, very terrible when you think about it. Libraries have been always the forefront of, when it comes to matters of information and, wisdom. This is where a lot of people go to. We go to the library to learn a lot of things. And if libraries are going to be never opening again, it's just saddening for me personally, as a person who loves books. This is just a really, really heavy blow when you think what is, the consequences of this whole pandemic happening across the country. It's just another saddening fact, another thing that is piled on top of all the other, terrible things that have happened. And the Scottish Library and the Information Council, they still, I see that there was going to be some concerns about some services may never even reopen. And the organization believes libraries will play a vital role in helping some of society's most vulnerable people recover from the pandemic. So in the Scottish borders, a phased reopening does not start until mid-August. So in Glasgow, there's been also local protests in areas with no reopening dates, and service providers all insist that they're trying to find permanent solutions for their communities. And to add to top of all of this, the SLIC says local authorities have a statutory duty to provide these services, and it argues libraries will help people back into work and education and out of social isolation. And at a city centre library in Edinburgh, librarian Tessa Storr explained how you can book a slot for some services, but others are not available yet. And you can come in and borrow books, DVDs, and get bus pass applications, but we can't have serious group sessions on site as of yet. So for people who use libraries to help them claim benefits, find work with translations or education, the loss of library services in some cases since the first lockdown has been definitely very, very tough. So for people who use these libraries to help claim benefits, find work, and this translation, they are having it the worst, when it comes down to these library services, shutting down. It is terrible. And Michelle Robbie, 43, trained as a nurse with a science background and is looking for work. She said it's really difficult because the library was somewhere I'd go to get out of the house and to use the computers and to sit and read and maybe meet other people. And I used some of the other library services like the CV Doctor. And she said not having access to printers and scanners has been kind of difficult in applying for jobs, because although a lot of them are online, some of them still want a paper form that you've printed and actually physically signed rather than electronically signed. So that's why they're here today. So the latest figures, released by the SLIC showed some patchy provisions of these services across Scotland. So when you take a look at it, when you take a look at this, so Aberdeen City has like a total of the 18 libraries, and 10 are only open and 8 are closed. So Aberdeenshire also has 37 libraries, 28 of which are open and 9 are closed. And Angus, 7 are open and 7 are, there are total libraries of 7, and 7 are currently open. And if you look at the figures, there's so many places like that: East Lothian, Renfrewshire, Edinburgh, all of these. And when it comes down to Edinburgh, looking at the figures there, it says that there's 28 total libraries and 9 are open and the next 19 are closed. So that's more than 50% of the libraries closed in Edinburgh only. So taking a look at that also. And then Fife, you have 35 libraries, 30 are open and 5 are currently closed. And in Glasgow, 33 libraries, total 19 are open and 14 are closed. Yeah, that is a significant amount, when you check at the number of closed libraries. And in the Scottish borders also, when you look at in Scotland, the Scottish borders, 13 libraries are there, and all 13 libraries are closed at the moment. Yeah, that is just saddening numbers right there. When you see the numbers like that pile up, it is, definitely sad. And in total, all of the UK rather, has 481 of these libraries. And it just shows, all of these libraries, it's terrible. All of these Scottish libraries opened as of yet, and only there's 481 of these, and 123 are closed. So yeah, that's just, a very, very massive figure. And in Glasgow, there's been local protests over fear several libraries won't ever open again. And like I said, a lot of people depend on these libraries, whether it is, for socially meeting other people or applying for jobs where they need the printers and all of that. And, maybe getting like I said, the forefront of information. This is the place where a lot of people come in for information, gathering books, reading on books, or even, solitude away from home or work or stress. This is just one of those places people go to, the libraries. I mean, I am an avid book learner. I love books. I love reading books. And it just shows, when something like this happens, it is a very, very terrible blow to the country, to a lot of the people's morale and the self-esteem in the country. So yeah, it just shows that a lot of people have been protesting over they are afraid that several of these libraries won't ever open again. And although service provider Glasgow Life insists it is working on temporary and permanent solutions for these certain communities. So Pamela Tulloch, the SLIC chief executive, said certain members of the public are very nervous that their libraries won't be coming back, and they've been closed in a lot of cases since March 2020. And that's a long time for what it is. Scotland's most popular library service to be out of commission in a local venue. So they think, libraries have been extremely resilient throughout the pandemic, and the public have been very supportive, of their libraries. So they'd be very surprised if once everything is, gets beyond this time, most libraries would not come back. And a pop-up library was launched in East Lothian this week because the existing village library could not made COVID compliant. So Becky Fleming, 33, and her two-year-olds daughter says it's been hard without services like preschool group literacy sessions. And she went on to say that we've missed book bug sessions for socializing, singing, rhyming. It's really important for these developments, and reading books and meeting other children as well. Like I said, this is a lot of, when it comes to libraries, it involves a lot of socializing with other people, as well as, meeting and introducing yourself to a lot of other people as well. So some libraries have been turned into COVID test centers, and others need structural work done before they can reopen. But the SLIC thinks local authorities have a statutory obligation to provide libraries library services. And a spokesperson for Glasgow Life said of the 33 public libraries in Glasgow, 19 are currently open, and with 4 more due to reopen in June and another 4 to reopen in August of September. And they've announced reopening dates for the vast majority of these libraries, and some venues such as Maryhill and Whiteinch have need significant investment, and we are exploring how to deliver a permanent solution for these communities while working to provide temporary library services in the meantime. So Burnlow Library is also co-located with the community center, which is being used as a vaccination center, and the building also needs a lot of refurbishment. So Cooper Library also can't accommodate to social distancing for people with accessibility needs, and the Gallery of Modern Art Library can't meet social distancing requirements. So Scottish Borders Council and Live Borders said they've recognized how much customers, communities, and visitors value their services, which range from swimming pools to museums. And they said a mobile library service would begin from the 31st rather of May. So that's something that they are looking forward to. Hopefully we don't get to see a lot of these libraries close down as it goes on. But if the pandemic keeps on raging forward, we really don't know what the outcome is going to be like. This is something that we have to have our fingers in a knot. Let's see what happens. Let's see how it goes as this whole situation progresses. And with that being said, we are going to be taking a real quick break before we return for the final stretch of the show. Welcome back to Relax Radio. This is me, Nick, giving you talking all about what is happening across the globe. And hey, if you want to hit me up, always feel free. The numbers 07852 473 4773. That's right. You can always check us out on social media. We're pretty big on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We are on Twitter as well. So make sure check us out on those social media platforms. That's right. And also don't forget you can download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day. And yeah, we were talking about issues right now. One of the things that we are discussing is the roadmap, to get out of this whole lockdown situation. And we UK is pretty ambitious. We're trying to get there by the time June hits. By the time June 21st hits, we our plan is to get every single individual vaccinated. But there are other countries as well. If you look at the map, there are other countries out there going far and above. And I mean, look at it from this point of view. The UK is right now the the body that is the primary body in the world when it comes to vaccinations. But countries are stepping up their game and looking at things. For Russia, they have started vaccinating their animals. So yeah, Russia has started vaccinating animals against the coronavirus. That's right. So in March, Russia announced it had registered what was the first world's animal specific jab. So yeah, several regions have now started vaccination at veterinary clinics, and Russia's veterinary watchdog, the Russell Kaznozdov, told local media this. So interests have shown in the Carnivac call vaccine by the EU, Argentina, South Korea, and Japan. And this is all said by the agency. I mean, like I said, a lot of countries, the UK is right now trying to roll out all the vaccines and get everyone in our country vaccinated. But, taking a look at things in Russia, though, Russia is, it's always been a crazy country for me. I mean, that country is wild. The people there are just so different from compared to the rest of the world. I think it's the cold, that makes them a little harder than most individuals. And I get it. And they think even more different than us. And that's crazy. So a lot of their scientists, Russian scientists right now, say there is currently no evidence that animals play a significant role in spreading the disease to humans. Do you even hear that? The virus did first pop out from China, in case you guys are wondering, and that is a bat, and a bat is an animal, last I checked. So yeah, they said infections confirmed in these various species worldwide. So although they say there's no evidence, infections have been confirmed in a lot of other animals. So these include dogs, cats, apes, and minks. So the period of immunity after the Canada Covax jab is an estimated 6 months. So Julia Milano, advisor to the head of the Russell Kosnodovs, said clinics were seeing an increase in vaccination requests from breeders, pet owners who travel frequently, and also citizens whose animals roam freely. And this is all according to the RIA in Russia. So another vaccine is also being developed by the U.S. veterinary pharmaceutical company Zoetis. And yeah, COVID-19 had been a previous problem and a very serious problem for mink, these semi-aquatic mammals farmed for their fur. So multiple countries have reported infections in farmed mink, which in some cases have fallen severely ill or died. So the largest mink outbreak happened in Denmark, which culled millions of animals and shut the industry down completely until 2022. So yeah, there is some evidence that mink have passed the virus back to humans in a mutated form. So yeah, that's just things when you look at things over in countries like Russia. But then there are other countries like France, and yeah, our French counterparts are crazy, and they found out that recently there has been a very controversial thing happening in France, and there is this anti-Pfizer vaccine campaign offer. So yeah, that is something that is going on while the rest of the world is trying to get vaccinated. The people in France, the French, are looking at things a little differently from another side of the periscope. I mean, if you say that Russia was looking, if we are looking at a periscope and they're looking at the one end that makes something look closer, I'm telling you, looking at France, they look like they turned the microscope or the periscope the other way around. So several French social media influencers say they have received a mysterious financial offer to spread negative publicity about the Pfizer vaccine. And they say an agency claiming to be based in the UK has contacted them by emailing offering a partnership. And Leo Grosset, who was 1.17 million YouTube subscribers, tweeted in French that a colossal budget was promised from a client who wants to remain incognito. And he went on to say, that the address the agency had given appeared to be bogus. And he went also additionally said that he said the LinkedIn profiles of the agency's alleged employees he had managed to find later disappeared, but not before he noticed that everyone and everybody there was, has worked in Russia. So there is something, going on. There is conspiracy theories going on about this. But hey, your thoughts or opinions, you can always hit me up 07852473473. Those are the magic numbers. And talking about this, Leo Grosset also posted what he said was instructions from the agency, urging him not to use words such as advertising or sponsored video if he were to agree to the partnership offered, and present the material as your own independent view was the email, what's it said in the email. And it also asked him to spread among his followers a false claim that the death rate among the vaccinated by Pfizer is almost 3 times higher than among those who have received AstraZeneca. And that's just, they are saying. So several other French social media influencers, all of whom are involved in the health and science field, said they've been contacted with a very similar offer. And it's a Demesine, a medical hospital intern with more than 85,000 Instagram followers, told French authorities that he was offered 2,050 euros, and that's an estimate of 1,775 pounds for a 30-second story on his account. Meanwhile, French Health Minister Olivier Véran said, "I do not know where this partnership offer comes from, but from France or abroad, it is pathetic, it is dangerous, and it is irresponsible, and it does not work." I mean, you're getting these big influencers and social media to stunt something like this. It's just dangerous and stupid, in my opinion. So the 2 doses of Pfizer named, is the most commonly administered vaccine in France, and it's produced by America's Pfizer and Germany BioNTech companies. So AstraZeneca has also a 2-dose vaccine being produced in France and is manufactured by a UK-Swedish pharmaceutical company. And in April, European Union report said Russia and Chinese state-run media were systematically trying to sow public mistrust in Western COVID vaccines, a claim denied in Moscow. So, there has been talks about this. A lot of people, anti-vaxxers worldwide can agree, though. They are a different kind of breed of people. But, with this, they're trying to sow all these mistrusts and, raising up all these claims. It is a problem, and people are there's already confusion, there's already frustration, there's already a lot of fear. Why even create even more? That's what I'm asking. If you guys are sensible, please don't do something like this. And don't believe a lot of these people who come up with these bogus offers. And it's a good part on the French influencers, not to actually take hold of this and not actually put this in their videos and promote negativity, especially negative spotlight to the Pfizer vaccine, unless of course there was something, there was side effects or something potentially that could harm people, and they brought that up at light as a fact. That's all right. That's a different story altogether. But this is just negative publicity that they just want to stir up and cause mistrust with the vaccine. That's that's just the way I see things. And if you have anything or thoughts on that matter, you can always feel free to call us up and let us know. And always, also, don't forget, you can download our app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Carry us all day, every day. And with that being said, it is about that time of the day, for me to bounce. But don't worry, I'll catch you guys again tomorrow, and we got something special in store for you. So you guys better make sure you keep it locked. And with that, my name is Nick, and I'm out of here. Peace and much love.